moving on now to Dr. Scott Meyer, HCC Instructor of Paralegal Technology and founder of Scott Meyer Law. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Morning, everybody. Great to be here.
Though most of us are familiar with lawyers, we often forget that paralegals and legal assistants support attorneys. We want to remind folks that HTC has a program to prepare students for this key role in our legal system. But before we get into our program, we want to ask you to share your own journey. I met you yesterday, and it's a inspiring story.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, that was a wonderful chat, and it's great to be back. Right. My journey to be who I've become as an academic and as a lawyer and as a trial lawyer and international criminal lawyer, these things really was a circuitous route that really began at community college. So when I just turned 17, I was in public high school in South Florida, the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area where I'm from, and something just wasn't clicking. I was doing okay, but I was unhappy, and I dropped out. And I knew that I wanted to continue my education, but I had no idea where. I had supportive family, but they were just sort of hands off. And I just made my way down to my local community college, Broward Community College. And I walked in, and a lovely advisor sat down with me and put the pieces together and said, let's start here. So I hadn't even had my GED yet, but they put me into some classes. I started my AA degree, and I excelled there in ways that I didn't in high school. And I loved it. And I had a community, I had friends, I had a nice melange, a collection of people with all varied, diverse life experiences coming at education differently. And that inspired me then, it inspires me now in how I reach and teach my students. And it was such a blessing and inspiration. I went on to take those lessons learned, those building blocks in community college, to go on to get 6 academic degrees. Now I went to Yale University. I'm one of the few Yale University students, I've been told, Ivy League students of the high school dropout community college, getting there, doing that, getting my PhD, getting 2 law degrees, practicing in the federal appeals court, all these other things, which is not to brag, but is to say, look at where you can come from when you kind of learn things. I don't want to say correctly, but you learn them differently. My trajectory would have been totally different if I would have went to maybe a state school or no school at all. And everyone's different. Everyone has their own calling in their own way. But my story is largely informed by what I learned during my time as a community college student, and now as a community college instructor. And it's something I'm very passionate about. I think it's a great place to be. I think it's a very privileged place to be in the big picture. There's a lot of hope, optimism, and really the sky is the limit if you apply yourself. And I try to make that enthusiasm contagious to my students. And if I can do it, they can do it.
It's certainly contagious to us, Scott. So, I think it's wonderful that you are leading this program. You're part of this program, and you're an example to the students that they can achieve their goals starting here at Houston Community College. Great. Tell us a little bit about the program structure and the delivery details.
Absolutely. So we have a 2-year AA degree. We also have 2 certificates. So it sort of depends where people might be on their professional and academic journey, what they want most out of the program. So it's varied. The AA degree will transfer smoothly into U of H and St. Thomas. It's a great preparation for things like criminal justice, political science, and perhaps law school one day for our students themselves, if they so choose. So the delivery is mostly at Central Campus, primarily in person, Southwest Campus as well, with some online options for some courses. There is a great co-op internship placement program that I help run along with instructor Ron Esposito, who is a department coordinator. He's wonderful. So we're all invested in getting hands-on practical experience for the students. In my lectures, I like to really speak to the ethical underpinnings of law, the theory on things like social justice. Things are very important to me, civil rights and change, and all of these really sort of ephemeral ideas that are worth pursuing. But at the same time, we have jobs to get and bills to pay. We're going to learn both. So we're going to do them together. And I think that makes for a good cocktail. So we're on the School of Business under Dean Connie Porter and the wonderful Dr. Juan Crawford is the chair. So that's where you'll find us. And those are some of the things that we're doing.
Fantastic. Tell us a little bit more. What's the difference between a paralegal and a legal assistant?
It's a great question. It really is. And I want to give you a good answer by also saying there's no real concrete answer. Much like we say in the law, it depends, right? So it's all contextual. And in this case, it would be sort of what designations and meaning do the managing partners of said law firm place on the position? Or perhaps if one works for the district attorney's office or a corporation, some oil and gas company would have people in contracts, people in litigation. So it's sort of what they say you're doing. Even the American Bar Association has sort of weighed in. The term most used is perhaps paralegal, but legal assistant is almost interchangeably depending on the duties. So paralegal, the term brings with it a sort of a gravitas of maybe it's a certain title that there's a certain weight to that title, perhaps, that people find meaning and pride in, which I think is great. But in some law firms, it's the legal assistants who have a slightly higher salary or have more compelling duties. So it really does depend where you're practicing. Yeah, if that helps.
For sure. And, I know that, like it really does depend, right, on the firm and on the role. And I mean, I'm sure that as a paralegal or a legal assistant, you can still have a very high level of responsibility, and they're counting on your as you mentioned, ethics, discretion. So I can imagine that those are some pretty high responsibility demanding jobs.
Absolutely. Crucial to the team, because a law firm is a team. Even someone like myself, who's primarily a solo practitioner, you need even a small team is crucial. A paralegal and a legal assistant, even students that are currently in our classes, are doing very important work. They're assisting at trial preparation. They are writing legal memos that are getting signed off on by law partners. They are writing memos and things that could, in a sense, make their way in front of a judge, that people will take and use. In the state of Texas, we do allow paralegals to represent clients in court on limited matters, which I think is great. Social Security, disability, and evictions. So these are things, some marginalized communities here. Evictions, for example, such a frustrating and painful thing, and you can't necessarily afford an attorney at $200-300 an hour. Well, a paralegal can take that in and help. So there's a paralegal doesn't just answer phones. Answering phones is crucial. You want to do client intake. You want to have an ear for the issues as you speak. There's an opportunity to help someone there. But at the same time, it's a very exciting, you're really doing the work, which I think is quite exciting.
It sounds exciting to me. And so you're talking a little bit about what they do. What are the career prospects? And if you can give us some idea of some salary figures.
Sure. The career prospects are great and growing, and especially in large cities, especially like Houston, for example. In our co-op program we're doing right now, we have 2 large sections, and I think as of now we found everybody a spot. Everybody who wants one has a spot. And that speaks to the caliber of our students and the caliber of our program. We have a good reputation that people come in and work hard and do well. So I don't know of anybody looking for paralegal work who's applying themselves, who has prepared, who's having too much trouble after too long. For better or worse, we live in a litigious society with a lot of conflict and disagreement being handled in the courtroom where it should be handled. So there's opportunities there for sure. And the salaries, they vary, but once you get plugged in, full-time work, it is not uncommon to start out around 40,000, go up 50, 60, 70, 80, even higher the longer you're there, and the more crucial, the more value you provide to the firm. So one can make a very dependable, solid living doing work that's different each day. Yes, it's an office, but every case is different. Every client is different. And as well as being a paralegal, it's a great preparation to let people go into law enforcement, for example, or contracts in a corporation, which is sort of tangentially related, in addition to really the personal growth and the personal sharpness one gets by sort of knowing the rules of our society, and knowing the ones we might want to change and the ones we're working on and the ones that are there for our benefit as well. So I think overall it's a very edifying program.
Absolutely. And we talked a little bit about the personal skills, right? Public speaking, confidence. And so I really want to thank you, Dr. Scott Meyer, for coming and talking to us and sharing about your program. HCC Instructor of Paralegal Technology and founder of Scott Meyer Law. We'll have all of your info in our post after the show.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Real pleasure.
It was great to see you. Take care.